What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And guys, it is Wednesday, it's midweek, and that means we're turning the page. It's no longer just about week one and our frustrations and our anger. We are now looking ahead to week two. How can the Giants bounce back against the Dallas Cowboys? Is that possible for them after an abysmal outing on the offensive side of the ball in the first game of the season? Well, it's not going to be easy without Andrew Thomas if he's not playing this week, and he is not practicing today. That and Malik Neighbors being limited, Micah McFadden news. There was a lot of injury news, so today we just want to do an injury update, talk about the injuries that the Giants have, and kind of look ahead to how they can get around some of these injuries and move forward going into week two versus the Cowboys and so on and so forth. But before we dive into all that, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what's your reaction to the injury report for the New York Giants?
Doing pretty good. And yeah, the injury report is kind of what we expected. Andrew Thomas still kind of in limbo. They said he didn't practice today. They're hoping he practices over the next 2 days. That doesn't give me much optimism or confidence he's going to play on Sunday. And the reason I say that is because if he can't get through every practice in a given week without any limitations, how can we expect him to play 4 quarters against Dallas and Arlington when they're going to be hauling ass to beat us after losing to the Eagles? Like, I just don't see how he plays this week based on that information alone. If he does, I hope to God that they're doing the right thing and that he's ready and that he's capable of playing 4 quarters, because there is no point in throwing a guy out there that can't play a full game because you're already at a compromised position. So, I do think he's going to miss this game. I think week 3 is probably when we see him get back into the mix, barring any setbacks. And listen, the Giants, they went out and seemingly they got the only guy they could in James Hudson. They overpaid him. And he's not good enough. And they went into the season with a liability. I just don't really think the Giants positioned themselves well to get out of this situation. They should have anticipated this being a problem early on. And they didn't really prepare. And I know Anthony posted today about the word preparation, and the Giants always seem to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to being prepared. And once again, I feel like they were underprepared in a situation they needed to have solved to start the season on a better note.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I mean, the Giants have been the most unprepared team in the NFL every single season under Brian Daboll. Look at their record under Brian Daboll in week ones. I mean, the last 3 seasons, Alex, to kick off the year, if you combine the scores of the Giants' last 3 week 1 games, they have been outscored 89-12. Just embarrassing. I mean, you're looking at a 40-0 versus Dallas. You're looking at a 28-6 versus Minnesota. And then, of course, 21-6 this past weekend versus the Washington Commanders. Brian Daboll's team is never prepared to go in the first portion of the season. Not even until week 4 or 5 do they finally start to turn things around. And even then, it's usually too late. And maybe they're not even able to turn it around. So Brian Daboll just doesn't know how to get his team prepared for week 1 is my takeaway from week 1. But he better have his team prepared for week 2. Because if he doesn't, and we start 0-2 again, then the chatter is going to be very real, Alex, to get Jackson Dart in the lineup for week 3 home opener on primetime against the Kansas City Chiefs, the AFC champions of last year. So I don't want to see that happen. I want to see the Giants win in week 2 against Dallas, but it's not going to be easy. It is on the road. And like you said, very unlikely that Andrew Thomas does play in this game. But I kind of want to open a conversation here, Alex, with you about Andrew Thomas, because there's been a lot of Giants fans who are saying things like, well, you know what? A lot of them are making this a conversation about Jackson Dart and saying this. Can't put Dart in the lineup until Andrew Thomas is out there. This offensive line is not going to be good until Andrew Thomas is on the field. Essentially, all I hear is excuses for this team. I hear excuses for poor quarterback play. Russell Wilson, what did you expect? He doesn't have his left tackle protecting him. Oh, well, of course, John Michael Schmitz and the guards aren't playing. Well, Andrew Thomas isn't out there. It's constant excuses for this New York Giants football team predicated on this one player being injured. You know what I watched on Monday night, Alex? I watched the Minnesota Vikings on the road versus the Chicago Bears without their starting left tackle march down the field in the 4th quarter with a rookie quarterback making his first start, technically not a rookie, his second season, but a pseudo-rookie quarterback making his first start in the league, win that football game. That's what I saw. No excuses there. They didn't use the injured left tackle as an excuse. I saw the New York Jets without Elijah Vera Tucker put up 392 total yards from scrimmage, including 184 yards on the ground. That's their best offensive lineman. What's the Jets' excuse? They lost the game, sure, but they still put up over 30 points, and nobody's making excuses. But the New York Giants can't get in the end zone. And we're sitting here, oh, what do you expect? They don't have Andrew Thomas on the field. I don't care if they don't have Andrew Thomas on the field. It's still unacceptable. You need to get into the end zone, and you need to stop making excuses. That's how I feel about it. So whether Andrew Thomas is ready to play or not in week 2, this defeated mentality that the Giants have, that Giants fans, unfortunately, also have developed, that we can't win without Andrew Thomas, it's ridiculous. No more excuses. Go out there, punch Dallas in the mouth, and find a way to win. I'm so tired of the excuses for Andrew Thomas, for the quarterbacks without Andrew Thomas, and for the Giants. If Brian Daboll can't figure out how to coach this team with one player off of the field, and that player being Andrew Thomas, then he is not qualified to be a head coach, and it's simple as that.
I mean, look at the New York Jets. I know you mentioned the Vikings without their starting tackle. The Jets didn't have their best offensive lineman and Elijah Vera Tucker. Their rookie, Armand Membao, was the highest rated tackle in the league this past weekend. The Giants have no excuses for the malpractice they've committed and are actively committing on the offensive line. The failure to develop talent. I mean, let me take it one step further, Anthony. You want to know who is currently putting together a pretty damn solid offensive line that we basically ran out of town and Brian Daboll placed all the blame on as a scapegoat? OG Bobby Johnson. The Washington Commanders now have a solid offensive line. The Giants turned the page to Carmen Brasillo, and we're back to square one. I honestly don't know what it is at this point. Is it a curse? What is it? Is it a schematics thing? That's kind of where I'm starting to lean, is that this scheme, the offensive scheme, does not lend itself to the strengths of our offensive line, or I guess whatever they are. We don't really know what those are, but it's just they don't do anything to protect themselves. We don't have the quarterback play to cover up the diabolical lack of efficiency and production from this unit. We don't have a Jaden Daniels. We don't have a Patrick Mahomes. We don't have a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Like our quarterback is not going to save us and save the offensive line from looking horrible, right? We don't have that level of performance right now. We pray to God Jackson Dart can provide that, but that would be a miracle because it's so unlikely. Any quarterback has that level of talent. This really feels like a letdown from a coaching perspective and whatnot. But listen, there is no excuses in football. There's only wins and losses. So we could talk about, oh, well, they don't have this and they didn't have that much cap space, or they just didn't develop that guy or that guy. These are all excuses for being losers, correct? So that's kind of how I feel about the Giants right now. They give us a lot of excuses as to why they are losers. There is talent on this team. But Andrew Thomas at this point in time, I'm going to make it very clear for you guys, Andrew Thomas at this point in time is unreliable, and I do not trust that he can stay healthy on any given season, right? I don't think he's going to play this weekend. If he does, that would be amazing. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be a realist because this is real. This is life. We have to be real about it. And the New York Giants in reality are extremely flawed. They do have talent. They do have ways to cover up a lot of these flaws, but the coaching staff isn't good enough to actually do that. Shane Bowen is not good enough to do that. Mike Kafka clearly is not good enough to do that. Brian Daboll the same. We can place blame on any of them, but until we see them actively win with coaching, actively win with schematics, actively win despite their flaws, like some teams are able to do, that's going to be the narrative. We see bad teams win. The Raiders look like a good operation this past Sunday. They look like a decent football team this past Sunday. They have Geno Smith, new quarterback, first time. Geno Smith has taken a snap in a regular season game for the Raiders. They had one of the worst rosters in football heading into this week 1, but they looked operational. The Giants did not look operational, right? Brian Daboll is going to get fired because he cannot put together a team with any sort of discipline. Not because of what he does with quarterbacks or whatever he did on the offensive side. Like his team and the coaches that around him are failing him. Anyway, sorry for the long-winded response. I just am really frustrated at the Giants' lack of preparation and lack of reality around their team, and that they just keep putting square pegs in round holes and expecting different results and doing the same thing over and over again and expecting things to get better when the coaching staff is not elevating anybody.
Coaching staff doesn't elevate anybody. You're absolutely right about that. And I think when it boils down to everything, there's so many problems with this team, whether you want to talk about the lack of preparedness, but really there is a lack of talent on this offensive line. You said it at the beginning. They paid James Hudson almost the same contract that they paid Jermaine Illuminor. That was an overpay. That was a really bad investment. And that money could have been better invested elsewhere. And as a result, the Giants are lacking talent in certain key positions. It was a bad signing. Hudson was never a good player. Yeah, he might be better than what the Giants had last year, but they completely neglected the backup left tackle position last year. Just to throw away money on a crappy backup doesn't mean that you did any better. You still neglected it largely in many ways. So there's just a serious lack of talent. And, again, looking at the interior of the offensive line and how bad they were, John Runyon looked terrible. Greg Van Roten looked awful. And John Michael Schmitz looked terrible. There is nobody who was brought onto this roster to compete with John Michael Schmitz. And that in and of itself is malpractice. And it's ignorance. It's the Giants saying, we refuse to accept that John Michael Schmitz is a bust. No, he's a bust. And you need to bring some competition on this roster to potentially replace him. But they refuse to believe that. So it is what it is. I'll digress off that. We'll move on to the next portion of the injury report. But Alex, I'm looking at this Micah McFadden loss as a huge one for this New York Giants defense. McFadden is one of the key players for the Giants in terms of run defense. And without him on the field last week, the run defense was terrible. Granted, the run defense was not great when he was on the field, and last year the run defense was pretty bad. But McFadden is reported by ESPN to be having foot surgery. It's going to have him sidelined for a significant amount of time. He will return by the end of the season. He should play again this year, but he's going to miss weeks and weeks of football. And so this is what I'm going to ask you, Alex. Do the Giants need to sign a linebacker? Because to me, the answer is very clear and obvious. Yes, I'm not trying to sit through another 15 weeks of Darius Muasau, a former sixth-round pick that the Giants drafted to contribute on special teams. But again, they neglected depth at a key position being linebacker, and now this special teams linebacker is starting games for the New York Giants. Bad move. I don't want to see it. They do need to bring in a linebacker, whether that's calling somebody up off of the practice squad or going into free agency and acquiring a veteran talent. That's my take on it, but I'm curious to hear yours.
I mean, picking up someone off the street isn't going to solve this problem, unfortunately. Like I didn't like Chris Board in the preseason. He was slow. He was immobile. He was bad, right? And he is on this roster. Darius Muasau was a draft pick. He looked bad. They immediately picked on him and threw a touchdown pass right in his direction to Zach Ertz the second that Micah McFadden got hurt. I don't know who you can pick up off the street to be better on day one, but if there is someone like that, they have to do it. It's going to derail their entire season, on defense if they don't have a guy that can step up and at least offer you competency. Muasau is not competent. Chris Board is not competent. And if anything happens to Bobby Okereke, like the middle of our defense is basically Swiss cheese. It's pretty disappointing. You know what I mean? I would have even been fine with the Giants bringing back Jabril Peppers, even to play like a money backer role, just to offer some support in that regard. And like, he's gone now. I think he's signed with another team. So, it's pretty sad that the Giants' failure to prepare once again bit them in the butt, multiple key positions of weakness. And we're sitting here wondering what to do. But, this is an opportunity for guys that are young to step up and try to get better and try to make plays and develop in real time. It's just as frustrating to me. Like, I don't understand, Anthony, but like some teams, like players always seem to come out of the woodworks and like perform at a relatively decent level or like come out and at least give 100% max effort. They look like they can make an impact in some way. The Giants, I just never get the sense have these guys that when someone goes down, someone gets hurt, someone elevates into that position and is fighting like hell. You can tell that they want it. You know what I mean? We don't have guys like that sometimes. Like it really sucks because the depth is very limited on this team still, clearly. And the points of strength on this roster are the ones that are obviously like we're healthy at, but the points of weakness, we immediately got hurt, right? Tackle, linebacker, we're immediately down 2 critical players. And it's like, okay, that's just the way life is. Like they hit you in the hard spots. But if there's a player out there in the free agent market, I don't know if there is. If there is, and there's someone that can provide an upgrade at a nominal cost, the Giants have to make that choice. They have to go get that player because it is too early in the season to give up and let Darius Muasau play significant reps.
Yeah, I really, again, like I said, I don't want to see Darius Muasau out there. I'll throw one name into the mix that the Giants could potentially sign. Could they reunite with Isaiah Simmons? I think that's a question. Now, they kind of viewed Isaiah Simmons as more of a safety / nickel cornerback at 6'4". I always kind of viewed him more as a linebacker, as did Wink Martindale. But Shane Bowen decided to play him at corner of all places, which was really interesting and probably was a sign of things to come with our defensive coordinator. But I do think that's a player that the Giants could potentially circle around to and add in free agency. but they don't really have a lot of money. And like you said, there aren't players who just step into these roles and fight like hell for the Giants. And I think what that really boils down to is a couple of things. I keep saying that phrase, but it's a lack of preparedness and it's a lack of depth. But I really think the preparedness is why these guys step into the lineup to fill in for other guys and look unprepared. There's just not enough practice reps being attributed to the right areas. And I don't know, man. I can go on and on about the unpreparedness, but we will move on to the next portion of the injury update. We've got a couple of wide receivers who popped up on the injury update or injury report today and didn't practice or did so in a limited capacity. But first, guys, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Sleeper. If you want to win up to 100 times your money on game day, well, Sleeper is the #1 sports app with real-time scores, lightning fast news, and daily fantasy picks that take just seconds. Choose more or less on your favorite player's stats, cash it in fast, and even chat with friends while you play. Download Sleeper today and use promo code FIRESIDE for a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's right, guys, 100% up to $100. Make sure to go check out Sleeper and use code FIRESIDE. But now diving back into this injury update, Malik Neighbors, Alex, he did not practice today, or he did so in a limited capacity, I believe, with a back injury. And Wan'Dale Robinson did not practice with an ankle injury. That's news to us. We didn't know that he was banged up at all coming out of that week 1 game. What's your level of concern with these two wide receivers for the Giants? Of course, they've been kind of managing Malik Neighbors for a while, but now Wan'Dale apparently on the injury report. Not what you want to hear after Darius Slayton ran 60 routes with 1 target and 0 catches last week. If there's anywhere we can't be thin now, it's definitely going to be receivers. So, how are you feeling about that?
Oh my God. Well, Wan'Dale has an ankle injury and Neighbors at the back. Dable said they should both be okay, so I'll take his word for it. Apparently, Dable had a very long-winded response today regarding the Cowboys and what he plans to do against them. And unusual, usually he's very vague. Today he was very open, and maybe that's his new big change, being more open, and that'll help the team win games. I don't know. But when it comes to the receivers, I think they'll both be fine. They have to go into this game against Dallas understanding one thing. If they do not throw the ball downfield and take shots, they're not going to score points, right? Their red zone offense clearly is bad. The Dallas Cowboys defense is a vulnerable defense. Like, they can be taken advantage of. They need to be active, getting the ball downfield, rolling Wilson out to his right, manufacturing time in the pocket, 3-step drops, fire. They have to be more aggressive. They need to let the thing fly. The problem was they were just locking on Neighbors, and he was double teamed half the time. So he got 12 targets, only 5 catches, which is very, very low for Neighbors, and they were just bracketing him. They don't have any faith in Darius Slayton, right? Teams are not scared of Slayton. Teams are not scared of Wan'Dale. Teams are not scared of Hyatt. They're not scared of Theo Johnson, not scared of Tyrone Tracy. The Giants need somebody else to emerge that they're afraid of, that teams are afraid of, right? They need to take shots at Slayton downfield. They have to manufacture opportunities for players like this because it's going to at least drag safeties away from double bracketing Neighbors. Like, they just walked right into the Commanders' game plan. This past week, they walked right into it, and then they doubled down on it, despite the fact that they were bracketing Neighbors. So, they need to identify these things in real time. And I know, sorry, I'm going on a whole nother tangent here, but they need to identify in real time what the Cowboys defense is trying to accomplish and work against them. If you are double covering a player, that leaves space open where that player should have been, right? You need to find that space and maximize it and develop plays with the intention of exploiting it. So the Dallas Cowboys watched the Commanders this past week and said, okay, how do we stop the Giants? Send a couple extra blitzers and double cover Neighbors and let everybody else beat us, because they won't, right? That's the goal. The Giants need to have somebody step up. It has to be Slayton. It has to be $36 million. It has to be him, right? He's the guy that can change the course of a game, because he's the guy that can catch a deep ball in man coverage or in single coverage and then take it to the house. He has to be the one that steps up and makes a play. That way they at least drag attention away after, that success. But I think the receivers are fine. They should be healthy according to Dable, and I'm not too concerned about it until we get to Sunday and we hear some bad news.
Sure, I guess if you say so, but according to Dable is no longer a reliable source to me. I don't believe at the word that this guy says. I don't even think he knows what's going on with his team. If he says Malik Neighbors is fine, if he says Wan'Dale Robinson is fine, I don't believe him, because I don't think he actually knows the truth. That's where I'm at with Brian Dable and this New York Giants team. If you can't tell, I'm kind of spiraling to a mass hysteria here after that week one loss. The more that I've sat with it, the more that I've watched the all 22, the stinky all 22, the more frustrated I've become here. And as we do look ahead to this Dallas game, Alex, I just want to throw one tidbit of information out there that you can kind of react to. And so we can start to get our previews going, turn the page on week one officially. But in week two, what are we facing with this Dallas Cowboys defense? This is going to be the big storyline in my eyes because the Giants offense was terrible in week one. They need to bounce back in week two. And in week two, they're facing a Cowboys defense without Micah Parsons that on paper looks like one of the worst defenses in the NFL, right? Well, Alex, listen up. Here's the breakdown on the Dallas Cowboys defensive coverage from week one. 0% man coverage. Literally did not run man coverage for a single player. They're the only team in football last week that did not run man coverage once, which I think is a really interesting statistic. So what are the Giants facing with Dallas? 0% man coverage last week, 27% cover two, 42% cover three, and 21% cover four, and 3% cover six. Now, their defense had only a 0.25 EPA per drop back, which is a really bad rate for their defense. It means that they were in the bottom half of defenses in the NFL running this purely zone coverage scheme. And essentially what I'm going to break down from that is you're going to expect to see Malik Neighbors double covered a lot. Now, they're not going to bracket him with man coverage, but in these cover twos, it's very easy to have one pressing hard flat defender with safety help over top. Now, what I will say the Giants can expose 42% of the time they were sitting in cover three. That means one-on-one coverages outside with Malik Neighbors, and that's what the Giants need to try to exploit in week two. This needs to be the game where Russell Wilson gets his deep ball going and Malik Neighbors runs free. That's what this has to be. It's a bad Dallas Cowboys defense. Every statistic will demonstrate that they are a bad defense. And seeing these coverage rates, you're not going to get those cover one mans or those cover zero blitzes where Malik Neighbors is going to get wide open on a man-beating route. You're going to have to scheme them open and find pockets in these zones or beat them on the outside against press coverage for one-on-one opportunities against cover three. That's what the Giants offense is going to need to do. And I'll say this, it's very doable as long as the offensive line can protect for even half of a rep. So we'll see how that goes. But Alex, I'll let you give your take on that before we wrap up this episode. You know, hearing the breakdown of the coverages that Dallas used in week one, what do you think that means for Neighbors and Russell Wilson in this offense as they try and bounce back against the Cowboys?
I mean, just watching what happened with the Eagles, I mean, it's hard to even like look at the Eagles and say like, how can we mimic their game plan? Their offensive line is so good, and Jalen Hurts is just runs and figures ways to convert first downs. But if you're the Giants, you need explosive plays, right? Like the Giants aren't good enough to survive running the football with their offensive line. The running game is not going to be the reason the Giants win football games. They don't have enough interior push. If Andrew Thomas is in play, we can pretty much rule out them having some substantial success on the ground. When you look at, the receivers here, like they have to be the ones that come up and be the heroes. So based on the coverage, that the Cowboys ran against the Eagles, like we saw AJ Brown did not get much, like didn't get any work. Like he barely was targeted. I think he had one catch for 8 yards at the end. Is that right? Something like that. Like they basically phased him out of the game. They're going to try to phase Neighbors out. Like obviously that's always the goal. And now that teams know, like if you could just take Neighbors out of the game, no one else can beat us really. Like I keep saying, like Slayton's going to have to be the guy that steps up. I thought Wandell looked fantastic, but like that kid takes, I guess he's kind of like, he's small, but like he takes a beating. Wandale, the way he plays, is going to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like he's small, like he runs into traffic at full speed, like as if he's not as small as he is. It's only a matter of time before he gets banged up and has to miss some time. Like I hope to God that doesn't happen, but like the way he plays suggests that is likely. Theo John, I'll ask you this though, Anthony, like a little spinoff here. Based on the coverages the Eagles, or the Cowboys ran, how important do you think like tight ends will be in this game for the Giants? Bellinger and Theo Johnson specifically. I think Bellinger looked pretty solid. I honestly think Theo Johnson may be deserving of even losing reps.
No, I don't think that would be the ideal thing to do against the Cowboys because they're running 42% of the time last week cover three. That means the seams are open, and the best seam option for the New York Giants is the 6'6" Theo Johnson. Listen, I think that Bellinger did play well. Bellinger's big catch that he had in the red zone came across the middle of the field in a cover 2/4 zone defense. I don't really remember what it was, but it was a wide open middle of the field defense. That's MOF, middle field open, or MFO, whatever you call it, that is against a cover two or cover four. You're not going to get as much of that and as many of those opportunities against this Dallas team since they like to run with a single high safety. But you will get seam shots open, and that's where a guy like Theo Johnson is super valuable. He's fast, he's athletic, he's got a huge wingspan, and I know that he played like shit in week one. So did the rest of the Giants. You could take reps away from a lot of guys. You could pass blame around everywhere, but it was week one and everybody was generally unprepared. I'm not taking away Theo Johnson's reps or diminishing his role in this upcoming game plan because honestly, this defense is made for Theo Johnson to eat against. Now, if he doesn't perform against this defense, yeah, now you start taking his reps away. But realistically, Daniel Bellinger had one tough catch that he made, and that was cool. Theo Johnson, yes, had those two drops. It's only the first game. I'm not going to overreact and pull the guy out of the starting lineup based on that. And again, especially because against this cover three heavy defense, the seams are going to be open. This should be a big opportunity for Theo Johnson to bounce back. And again, like I said, it should be an opportunity for guys on the outside, those outside wide receivers, to bounce back, being Malik Nabers and Darius Slayton, because when you're facing a lot of cover three, there is no safety help over top when you're an outside receiver. So that's why I'm expecting some deep balls from Russ. He's got to connect with those receivers, and we need to see this Giants offense get some breakaway plays and some explosive chunk plays downfield.
Yeah, I mean, Slayton always has been kind of, that's where he built his whole career, really, is really outside the numbers, pressed against the boundary, making those kind of more competitive grabs. So I think this is going to be a Slayton game. I mean, look, Theo Johnson, obviously, he's fast, he's big, hands, not a natural catcher by any means, but they need him to step up too. They need a flawless performance, to be quite honest with you. They need a performance that doesn't include drops. They need solid execution, better pass protection. This is not a good defensive front from the Cowboys. They're going to stop the run well with Kenny Clark in the middle, but their edge rushers are nothing special. Like the Giants have to look better in this game. Everything suggests that they should. They got the bad one out of the way. The defensive line's not as good. The defense in general for the Cowboys is not as good. They're very susceptible. Like the Giants have to execute on some bigger plays here. And we'll see how that kind of looks. But honestly, like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Hyatt a little bit in this game just for his speed on the boundary. I don't want to see him on the field. Let me get that straight. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were just sending Slayton deep so much they just needed to rotate them guys just to have a little bit of a breather. But you know, when it comes to Nabers, we know he can make those throws, or rather those catches. If they're going to play that way and not double cover him or not lean his way, it's going to be a lot of 50-50 balls to Nabers on Sunday, most likely. And I think Russ showed us this past weekend, he is not afraid to give Nabers that chance to go up and high point a ball.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be really easy to get Malik Nabers open deep in this game. It's just going to take accurate throws from Russell Wilson. He was off time last week. He missed a couple of throws. He underthrew a couple, and a lot of it had to do with him being skittish in the pocket. Really poor pass protection definitely affected Russ, but I do think him and Nabers are due to bounce back in week 2, and I'm going to stay optimistic. Not going to pick the Giants to win or anything. It's hard to be that confident in them, but the offense should definitely be better, although that's not saying much considering the bar is literally on the floor at this point for the New York Giants offense. But that is going to wrap things up, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. And once again, thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring this episode. We'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Giants.
Perfect.